So what we wanted to do with that study, when I map out a study, I feel like I've done this the same way for the last 20 some years. And that is, I can't just map it out. I have to let it unfold slowly in my head. And that might take a day, 2 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks. And it's a painful process. I imagine that writers probably have some of the same angst as they plan these things out. But as I sort of brought some skills from New Mexico when I was a grad student there, and then pooled that with some interests that Brian had thrown in, and in terms of working with some of these fire crews, I smashed both those two worlds together. So at New Mexico, I was doing some really, really fun, innovative techniques with these stable isotope tracers. So we'd infuse these tracers and we'd be able to calculate how much glucose was being taken up by the liver, how much glucose was being taken up by the muscle. And so we did that. We did that study at New Mexico, and that really helped me develop some of those techniques. So when I came here, I just wanted to keep doing that kind of work. So that was embedded in the grant, looking at differences between females and males in terms of what fuels the muscle would use during exercise. That was a very well-defined, classic, put it in a grant, here's the methodology. It's very cut and dry, very sciencey, very controlled. So that got no flack from the reviewers. They understood that. That's their world. The thing that really threw a monstrous monkey wrench into the grant proposal and was reflected in the reviewer comments was, well, we're not just satisfied with doing stuff in the lab. We want to do some stuff in the field as well. And here's a group we want to study. This is the wildland firefighter. And that was and has always been a stretch for the scientific community to wrap their head around. Like, why would you want to go into an unpredictable, hostile environment where you can't control anything? And my mindset was exactly, that's why we want to do it, is because it's unpredictable, hostile, and it's going to be hard. And sometimes it might not work. So I put those two things together in the proposal, and which I've never reviewed a proposal like that. I've never seen a proposal like that. And I don't think the reviewers had either. And so when the reviewer comments came back, they weren't very favorable. They called me not focused. They called me essentially a greenhorn researcher, which I was. I'm pretending that I wasn't that. But when it got funded, that really opened up a really neat door to smash those two worlds together. And over my entire career, I've developed an unapologetic strategy to doing that, to continuing to do that, to force that into every one of our proposals. And it's taken 20 some years for the reviewers to finally think, well, okay, we're coming around. I don't think they're the same reviewers, but so the first study was that lab-based study. We had males, we had females, very controlled, really intensive. That was done in the fall and then the spring. And then the spring of that year is when we started making strides, meeting up with some of the crews from the Northern Rockies to sort of set the stage for how things were going to unfold once we got out into the field with them.